Oh, hello. I thought I'd give you a little bit of an idea about how I use this, my drone, and how specifically I use it for photography. I'm sort of taking every chance I can at the moment to be outside. Luckily, I have a bit of outside space here. Let's get into it. This is the bag I keep my drone in. It's a little timber bag, and I have a DJI Mavic Pro 2. Now this is probably, and this is my fourth drone, something like that. I had, I think, a 3 Pro, that was my first one, and then I had a 4, because I killed the 3. I flew it into a tree. I managed to actually repair it, but I needed another drone, so I bought the 4. Actually, drones are not that difficult to repair if they're not that damaged. The parts are actually quite cheap, but avoid trees is the lesson. So I had these big ones, and when the Mavic came out, I thought maybe this is a chance that I can get a small one that will fit in my bag or fit in a small bag and stop having to carry this huge case around that will cover all of my needs. And most of my needs are a bit of filming, they shoot 4K, and some photography. And this one, the Mavic Pro 2, is amazing actually for photography. It has a much better sensor, but some of the things I sort of recommend everything works on sort of all drones, and there's some ideas you can take away even if you've got a really small, quite low quality camera or any of those sorts of things. So let's have a little look into it. Gear wise, what do I recommend to take? I have a spare battery. I have one spare battery. These batteries last about 25 minutes. I have 2 of them. I have the normal charger, and then I have a car charger. And most of the time I'm in cars or traveling or whatever. And most of my drone shots, it's normally send the drone up, take the pictures, bring it back down again. And I've never run out of battery yet. Now, I don't do tons of shooting with it, but for my uses, 2, I've been completely fine, and you can charge them in the car. If you've got a wall socket, you can charge them quickly, so 2 seems to be fine. I also keep in the case here a spare set of rotors. Now, on my Pro 2, I have not damaged these rotors at all. I've had this since they came out. I don't know how long that is, a year, 2 years, and they've been fine. But on the other one, I did smash up a couple of rotors at the beginning. That's something that you just have to accept when you buy a drone, that you're going to crash it and possibly break it. Now, that's possibly something you should think about when you're buying a drone, is how expensive is the drone and what are you comfortable, whether you need to get insurance, because if you're worried about the price of the drone, you're probably flying a drone that's a bit expensive. So whether you have insurance that covers that or whether you just price that in, I accept that I will do stuff with this drone that might be slightly on the edge, and I'm always trying to be on the edge with my filming or photography or whatever, flying at like max speed, chasing some stuff, but that's when you get the really good footage for filming anyway. Photography, you can be a bit more chilled about it because you don't have to rush anything. So there we go. Number 1, first thing you've got to do, you've got to charge everything up. Make sure it's all charged up before you go anywhere. Sounds simple, sounds obvious, but that includes your phone. Your phone needs to be on full battery when you start flying a drone because it eats battery using the screen, and one of the worst things that can happen when you're flying a drone is if your phone dies. There's some of them, like the Mavic Pro 2 has a feature where it will start charging your phone, but I think this is the only drone that does that. Maybe some of the other new DJI ones will do that. Having your phone die is really stressful. So you need to know how to get your drone to automatically fly back home, whether you have to set a height. So set a height so that if it automatically returns to home, the DJI drones have this function. I set the height so it will clear any objects that I'm flying near. So if there's a big building or something, you want it to be set at whatever it is, 50 meters, so that when it comes home, it goes up and then comes back. Another thing you've got to do before you fly is make sure your software is all up to date, because some drones will not let you fly them without being up to date. So if you know you're going to go away for the weekend, or you're going to go somewhere where the signal might be a bit iffy, turn your drone on before at home, just turn it on your kitchen table, whatever. Check it's all up to date and then go away. I've had it a few times where I'm out in the field, I've got a slightly dodgy phone connection. One of the things you can do is put your phone in airplane mode before you turn it on. Then you don't actually run into these problems. But if you forget and it needs an update, sometimes the drones will not take off. And there's nothing more annoying than being in the location to do a cool shoot and then you just can't take the drone off for whatever reason. To follow up from that, you should also check, there's a couple of apps, I'll put them below, that you can check the flight restrictions for the areas that you're going to fly your drone, because sometimes you'll get there and you can't take off because there's an airfield just around the corner that you didn't know about and you're not allowed to fly in that airspace. So just a couple of things before you go out, and I know it sounds like a bit of effort, but it's well worth doing because there's nothing more annoying than not being able to fly when you get to the place. Another sort of setup thing with the DJI drones, and I'm sure you can change on other drones, you can change this, but one of the things that was super helpful for me was changing the configuration of the controls on the drone. The default configurations are really difficult to get to use it with and get your head around, and I'll show you the clip now of changing it on my phone, but I think it's mode 2 or mode 3, changes the controls from this weird one that's the default DJI one to basically like Call of Duty or any video game ever, where the left stick moves it forward, backwards, side to side, and the right rotates like this. Once I switched that over, flying the drone just became so much more simple, so much easier. I actually had straight away, it was like step change in my ability to fly the drone. So heavily recommend you swap it over. If you've ever played video games of any sort, that's the default sort of controls that they have on all video games, and it's the same. So just switch it over. Your life will be much, much easier. Now I'm going to pack this stuff up, and then I'm going to take off, and I'm going to talk through a couple of the other things to help take great pictures with this guy. Get your drone out. Remember to take this off. It can mess up your gimbal if you don't. I've totally forgotten to do that before. Then the DJI little remotes have these tiny little joysticks that I always forget to put on, so I end up putting my phone on here, clamping it in, and then have to take it off and do it all again. But you know, pretty neat little features. And let's get flying. Oh, something that you will see everyone do. It's this classic DJI situation. Every time you start the drone again in a new location, you should really do a calibration, so you do the little drone dance. There's probably a better way of doing it than that, but that seems to be the fastest, and you end up a little bit like this, but this is what it is. Let's go fly. One of the skills you should learn when you're flying is landing on your hand. Now, it doesn't necessarily seem like it's that necessary, but quite often I've found I've got somewhere to take off, but I don't always necessarily have the same place to land. People might be moving around, all that sort of stuff. So practice landing on your hand and catching the drone. Some of them you can flip upside down. Apparently you can do it with the Mavic Pro. I've never felt that comfortable trying it. I might try it in a minute. It's just a good skill to have, and it enables you to catch the drone in places, whether it's like out a window or something, where otherwise it might be a bit tricky. So worth learning. Now right here, you can probably hear this controller is going mental. The sensors on the front and back will stop the drone flying into you, which is fine. I'm pressing forward. It should come and take my head off. Now, what you may find is to land, you want to turn the drone around, the other way round. So it's this way around. And that will enable you to fly it back towards yourself to catch it. If you have a DJI drone, what you can do is you can put the drone into sports mode, and that turns off all of the sensors, so then you can fly it very close to your hand and catch it. So here we go. So if I just spin it around now, and I put it into sport mode, so there's a little clicky button here. All the warning sensors have gone off, and it will now fly into my face. See? It gets closer and closer. But it now enables me to get very close, put my hand underneath it, and grab it like this. If I don't move the joystick with my hand. And then there's a few things for when you're actually taking pictures, funnily enough, just some like advice points. One is shoot panoramas. So typically drones have really small sensors. So rather than just flying really far away and getting the wide view, what you do is you take a few pictures. So if it's Instagram, for example, you might do a vertical panorama. So you shoot a photo like boom, then move the camera down, boom, and then move the camera down, boom, and then you merge them together. And what you'll end up with, rather than a 10 megapixel picture, you could end up with a 30 or a 50 or 100 by just taking lots of little snippets. Now, most of the drones have a panorama feature, and you just press go, and it will take 20 pictures or whatever and stitch them together, or you can stitch them together in post. And that is how you can take even really low quality images and turn them into something massive that you can print and put on your wall. And that's generally what I do, is I shoot a bunch of different pictures, whether it's manually or I get the camera to do it automatically. I make sure the camera is in RAW mode, if you've got that. If you know about shooting RAW, just gives you a bit more latitude. And that's pretty much it. Go out and enjoy shooting drone photos.